When we're working around these animals, we need to remember to always try to dress appropriately. Footwear is one of the key things we need to consider, particularly where you're haltering and leading those animals. They can step on you very easily, so wearing some type of shoe to cover your feet and your toes is very important. When we start working around livestock, we have to understand they have a very definite flight zone from the time they're born until it is changed by a human. Natural instinct of that animal is to move away from human contact. If we're going to exhibit that animal, we have to break that flight zone down to where we can enter that flight zone, get next to the animal and control their movements. That is the process that causes a lot of injuries, training animals to where they'll allow you to get close enough to them that we can exhibit them. So that can't be rushed. It has to be managed very quietly and calmly, and understand that that animal's natural instinct is to move away from you as you go into that training process. All animals are not going to act the same. Females, as they go into production, will behave differently. Intact males are another class of animals that present some real dangers, not only to the exhibitors, but to the people around them. As we work to understand how an animal is going to react, we have to keep a few things in mind. We always want to approach an animal where we don't spook that animal that it might injure the person that's actually exhibiting. So as a helper or parent around an animal, you need to understand that your presence is going to impact how that animal reacts to the person exhibiting. As long as the exhibitor is aware I'm coming, the animal's aware I'm coming, they're probably going to stand pretty quiet. But I don't want to scare the animal and cause them to jump on whoever's exhibiting. There's several areas on an animal that can cause some problems, what we'd consider danger points. Probably in show animals, one of the worst things is their feet. We see a lot of injuries that are due to an animal stepping on an exhibitor. The other big concern is their ability to kick. And so we have to be particularly careful about the hind legs on an animal. Most animals are not prone to kick unless they are startled or agitated. We can start predicting an adverse reaction by ears twitching, tails twitching. So anything associated with the legs we need to be careful about. When you pass behind them, you'd certainly want to stay close to their body. If they did kick, it would not be a severe blow, or you want to make sure that you walk way around the animal so if they do kick, they can't hit you or strike you with that rear leg. The other thing that causes some injury is just physical body mass. Even the smallest animal that we're exhibiting will exceed the weight of most people handling those animals, so they can jerk you down, run over you, pull away from you. The other area where you want to be cautious is working up here next to the front. The natural instinct of an animal is to jump and move forward. Now, if you think about how we exhibit livestock, we stand in front of them or slightly off to the side so they can run over you if they're startled. Another area that we have to be cognizant of as we work with livestock is the head. One of their natural instincts is to butt things that they're not comfortable with or they feel poses a threat. It's a good idea to get them accustomed to contact around their head. You're going to have to be messing with their ears, getting the halters on. But one thing you don't want to teach an animal to do is to push against you. If I were to actually get around and go to pushing on this heifer, I could teach her to butt me and to push against me. And that's something you don't ever want one of these animals to learn, is that they can strike you and try to butt you out of their way. So we have to create that comfort zone around their head, but we have to respect the fact that that is one of their weapons, just like their hind feet would be, and we don't want to teach them to use that against us. We've talked a little bit about the natural instinct of an animal, and they are a prey animal. In other words, if they are frightened, their natural instinct is to either fight or flee. Neither one of those work out very well when you're trying to hold on to a lead rope. So we need to make sure that this animal never perceives a person to be a predator. Oftentimes, an animal that's worked with an older person will not know what a small child is. And if you think about most predators, they're smaller in stature, smaller in size, and their movement's different. If we think about small children, as they see them approaching, they may become very aggressive and try to push that animal away from them in a fight mode. So we want to make sure that they get accustomed to every type of individual that might be around them, and that's going to include small children that might be at a fair or at your home as you're working and training with these animals. There's a couple of things that exhibitors need to learn to do, and one is to make sure that they don't have this rope or leather strap wrapped around their hand or arm. It can cause you to be drugged, break an arm, or even worse. So always make sure that if you're going to have to coil it up, that you do so that it's not going to be around your hand. It's best to leave it be slack between the two hands to let that extra rope not be in a loop. Most parents encourage their youngsters not to turn loose, because if that animal learns that it can jerk loose, then it's more prone to do that. There's a fine line between holding on and making that animal work for you and not being smart, and you should turn loose. And that's a very difficult call to make. If you ever lose balance and start to stumble, you should turn loose and allow the animal to get away from you before you get on the ground. So it's better to get away from them for your safety, go back to the drawing board, teach those animals not to try to break and run away from you.